Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KipAtcher.com, out here for another gear review, and today, talking optics. This little guy right here, not to be confused with that little guy, just a magnifier, but this right here, which is the SLX, it is a 1X prism optic by Primary Arms, basically kind of Gen 2 of their Cyclops. I ended up shooting that Gen 1 Cyclops a lot on a number of different guns to include a bunch of different competitions, and it did a really good job for me. It was admittedly kind of bulky, and the mount, while it basically, I want to say it had essentially like a aim point, like T1, T2 style mount, so you could use any of those aftermarket mounts for it. It was great, but it also was higher than it generally was. So if you were using a absolute co-witness, it turned it into a lower 1/3. If you're using a low 1/3 mount, I don't know, turn it into like 193 or something like that. Whereas this is ultimately smaller, sleeker, cleaner package, same great optical clarity, and yeah, basically just kind of a smaller, nicer footprint. With that, since I was just speaking of mounts, this one actually uses the ACOG footprint. So any type of mount you would use for an ACOG, this will use that. And as far as out of the box, it actually comes with a lot of different mounting options to include cantilever stuff if you need to move it back, push it forward, and a number of different riser options. So straight out of the box, you can get it pretty much set up for whatever type of shooting you are going to be doing. I've had this optic for quite a while now, done a lot of shooting with it. For a while, it's actually been on a pretty sweet little Ruger Charger in an SB Tactical chassis, and shot it a lot, both myself and my boys, number of different range days, just having fun out there shooting that thing. I've also done a fair amount of shooting with it, mounted on this guy right here, which is the Perun by Tink Arms out of Slovenia. Pretty cool little kind of like gas piston hybrid gun, but it has been really good for me. A couple different fronts. One uses the ACSS Reticle, so chevron and some little subtensions down below. And for me personally, I actually really like it. Whether it's in this or in some of the hollow suns for pistols, having that chevron allows you to basically refine that sight picture. Well, refine your zero initially, and depending on the type of your shoot or type of shooting you're doing, refine that sight picture. You got a really clean, crisp, like top to that chevron. And the other part with that is, for me, it is clean and crisp. In that I actually kind of have astigmatism, and so red dots, sometimes they'll bloom out, especially aim points, stuff like that. And being able to have this with an etched reticle, really nice and really clean. And then on top of that, you basically have a big like CQB horseshoe too. So again, depending on distances, pop this up. If that circles anywhere on your target, press the trigger, you're gonna get your hits. Overall, pretty solid, and yeah, pretty fun to shoot. What about stretching it out? Yeah, you absolutely can. Again, it comes down to what kind of zero you have on it and if you know your holds. And then it's also nice to be able to have a magnifier, flip that guy over, get behind it, and everything's magnified. One thing I will say is everything's magnified. So if you've ever shot like EOTechs, when you throw the magnifier on there, your dot does not increase in size. But this, everything gets magnified, which doesn't matter. Depending on application, usually not. But throwing this 3x magnifier on there, definitely able to push this thing out further. Right here on the right side of the optic, you have your windage, and then up top, you have your elevation. Increments are 1 MOA adjustment. Admittedly, not super fine, but again, this is more kind of CQB style reticle. And then over here on the left side, we can adjust our illumination. For that, when you move through, one thing I do like is it goes from 0 up or 0 down, I guess depending on how you look at it, in that when you're on 0, if you start rotating it toward you, you start gradually going up, initially tracking through 3 different night vision settings, and then you start getting into your daylight brightness. And then you can also just turn it the other direction from 0 away from you and go straight to 13, which is max brightness, which is in fact daylight bright. With all that said, how do I like this little guy? Honestly, I think it's a really cool optic for what it is, like a nice, basically CQB type optic or red dot that is not a red dot. So again, going back to the etched reticle, even if your batteries are dead, you have no illumination, you still use it. Half the time, I probably don't even ever turn the illumination on. Like, it's just nice, clean, black etched reticle. And with that, it's well thought out. If you like ACSS reticle, and that's one of those things with any optic. You're like, hey, what about this optic? Do you like the reticle? If you like the ACSS reticle, which honestly I think is very well thought out, then yeah, I think this thing's pretty solid. And especially if you have astigmatism, might be worth looking into. Is there anything I don't care for about this? The only thing I would say is honestly the mount. Yes, it basically is compatible with any ACOG mount, which is probably like the least supported of any optic mounts out there. There's some people that make them, like Midwest Industries has a good like QD one, stuff along those lines. But yeah, definitely wish it was maybe like aim point footprint or something like that. Throw ScalarWorks on there, something along those lines, but it is what it is. And the factory mount has a lot of different options and most certainly works. If you're looking for a good, solid, small kind of red dot, but not a red dot, because maybe your eyes don't see those red dots as well anymore, I would give this a look. It's pretty cool. Prism optics, I personally like. Not a lot that can go wrong with them. Not a bunch of moving parts. Yes, you can have a battery, not reliant on a battery, and yeah, overall, good solid optic. Again, you can find them directly through Primary Arms, but if you appreciate my content and want to support it, greatly appreciate it, whether it's liking and sharing videos or going over to kitbadger.com, picking up KBAT target pads, stickers, patches, things like that, or supporting me directly through Patreon. Over there, you'll get early access to videos, some exclusive content, and access to Discord. If you have questions for me, happy to answer them over there. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.